Welcome back, and that was a feature on building a sustainable food value chain. We all know that food that we eat is beyond just meal. It has to go through a lot of processes, complex processes, before it becomes just a meal that we eat. Now we're going to talk more about building a sustainable food value chain with our own very friend of the house, engineer Abayomi Onosanya. He is a global director, Africa House. Engineer Abayomi, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this morning we are talking about food.
Yeah,
yes.
So hungry.
How can we are talking about building a sustainable food value chain. How can we do that?
Yes, again, good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Abuja. Building a sustainable food value chain goes beyond the food you see on your table. You know, for us to understand this, we have to go back to where food comes from, which is the farm. And in Nigeria, in fact, in Africa, our problem is not lack of food, actually. Our problem has been how do we manage that value chain from farm to the final consumer. In Africa, as we know, we have very fertile soil. We can produce almost all the foods that we require, but somehow our people still go hungry, and somehow there's still lots of food wastage. So this is what we would attempt to answer today, to see how we can actually, advise the people in charge to be able to create an efficient food value chain right from the farm all the way to the table to ensure that no food goes to waste, and at the same time our people never get hungry. This is what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay.
So what role can educational programs play in creating awareness?
Yes, I'm happy you're going along that line, because everything starts with education. The problem we have in our value chain basically is that we have been operating based on old archaic farming method, or shall I say education that we've been taught centuries ago. Today in Nigeria, in Africa, you discover that people still go to farm with their hoes and cutlasses. You still see a farmer still cultivating maximum maybe 1 acre, 2 acre, or if it's strong 1 hectare, using his hoe and cutlasses. And this is no longer sustainable. And in order for us to feed our growing population, we need to involve ourselves in mechanized farming. This is where government comes in. This is where different agencies come in. And we need to ensure that all those empty lands that we have, we cultivate them into food. We start growing food in large quantities. I'm not saying we shouldn't have smallholder farmers. Yes, we can. In fact, we can bring them all together as a cooperative. I'll use Abuja as an example. If you're traveling from, let's say, Kubwa, all the way to airport, there's an area called Kagini. You see on the left side, just after Day. You see empty expanse of land, as in thousands of hectares, and nothing basically goes on there. You begin to wonder, why are we still hungry? Why can't we cultivate all these lands and create lots of food so that we never go hungry?
Okay, such hectares of land, yes, has been sold long time ago, and nothing is being done on it.
Exactly. Even we're not even talking about the because see, land is political, whether you like it or not. Yes, maybe it's been sold, it's been allocated. Fine, yes, you own the land, but the truth is, let's utilize it.
Before you do anything.
We now say, okay, fine, now we need the land to build schools, to build houses and whatnot. And traveling across Nigeria, what baffles me is when you go to Europe, when you travel from one state to another or region to another, all you will see are farms, left, right, and center. But in Nigeria, if you're traveling from, let's say, Abuja to, let's say, Adavi in Kogi State, you will just see jungle. And you begin to wonder, why can't we cultivate all these lands and let's just turn them to a wheat farm, rice farm, cassava farm, so that we know we have a lot of food to eat. And like she said, jobs. We are creating jobs, and then we know that we never lack food. And in fact, we produce so much food that we start exporting. And this is where I have issues. Personally, I have issues with all these so-called programs that we claim to have been doing for the last, since 1960. You see, because in Nigeria as it stands today, we have so many research institutes that focuses on food. We have Cocoa Research Institute, we have Nigeria Study.
They still function.
They do. And I was doing my research. There's an institute called IAR&T, Agricultural Research and Training. It's in Ibadan, by the way. These people directly and indirectly employ over 1,000 researchers and scientists, and to research food, to research how we can have efficient food production. And you begin to wonder, if we've been doing this since the 1960s, how come we don't have enough food? How come we have all these institutes and agencies under the ministry, and still we're still hungry.
We're not even feeling the impact.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm not. And I won't blame them. Let's be fair on them. I won't blame them. The truth is, they've done a lot of research, but the problem is the research has not been commercialized. There are millions of solutions that our junior scientists have come up with, but for some reason, we're still importing whatnot and whatnot. So my advice is this. Let's move away from just research and publishing books and journals to actually implementing all this.
Practical process. And this one is bringing me to this my next question. Yes, we've been talking about research, and the whole lot comes back to the local farmers, where it starts from. Now, how can these local farmers, what will make them, give them that leverage, that help to ensure this food sustainability we are talking about, because it starts from there.
Thank you very, very much for that. See, in Nigeria, our research is not only being done by Nigerian government under the Ministry of Agriculture. We have external foreign agencies like IIT and several of them who pour millions and millions of dollars, even sometimes billions, into research in agriculture. And we're still hungry decades after. The missing link has always been commercialization. They put too much effort into the research and they forget that commercialization part. IIT, for example, we're partners with IIT and I'm part of that. They've done research in cassava, in yam, and several other strategic food products. But the problem is that they are not allowed, or shall I say, they don't have that leverage, that freedom to actually commercialize what they are doing, what the research outputs that they have. And as a result, the farmers, when you tell them we have a new variety of what and what, they say, which variety are you talking about? He doesn't know. And he doesn't have access to this so-called research. So what I would advocate for, what we should be advocating for is that the government should mandate that whatever funding you are bringing in for whatever project, a huge chunk of it should go into the actual implementation of this. And what do I mean by this? Let's say IIT comes up with a new variety, let's say Baba 70 and some other cassava breeds that they've come up with. We should mandate them and the researchers to say, you know what, once the research is done, you must establish a program that allows this particular output to get to the farmers. And there should be a benchmark saying that, okay, in the next 6 months, we should have 1,000 farmers planting this new variety. NISPRI in Ilorin, headed by Professor Latif Sani. Professor Latif Sani is one of the top most brains in the world when it comes to root crops, cassava and yam. They know him worldwide. He has brought in innovation into NISPRI to try to improve our post-harvest losses. That means how we store and process our food. If you go to their website and their publications, they've done so many innovations that they have created, but there's no funding to actually create those food processing centers. Imagine you are pumping billions into NISPRI to establish in every state of the federation places whereby the farmers can bring their produce and actually process commercially. So we need to move away from, oh yeah, go and do your research. Give us the result, publish it online, and go and see them. No, we need to actually, so this is where government needs to go into business. We need to ensure that these institutes, or even the Ministry of Agriculture, creates a commercial business entity that actually does business. Like, let's say NISPRI owns 1,000 hectares that for cultivating yam or cassava, and whatever they produce, they process by themselves. People will come in and buy. They will not only be solving a problem, they'll be generating income. So they don't need to be going back to the government every year, come and fund us, come and take care of our budget. So government needs to do business. You see, we need to pump money into commercialization. Like our organization, like as Africa House, we've done a lot of innovations, and of course, Abuja 5 Abuja, of course, you prove it to some of this. We've been creating solutions that turns tomato into tomato powder. We are doing mango concentrate. We are processing almost everything we can find in Nigeria into products that we can store for a longer shelf life. So
also
export. Thank you. So why can't the government and other agencies come together and say, you know what, in every state we are creating actual businesses that will be taking these technologies, that will be assisting the farmers to process, to store, and like she said, export. So that way, we're no longer doing and cutlass agriculture anymore. You see, and also mechanization comes into play. You see, we get millions and millions from foreign agencies to help us develop our agriculture. Buy tractors, invite 100 farmers together, let's cultivate 1,000 hectares, 2,000 hectares of corn, of cassava, of maize, of tomatoes, so that we know that we're doing large-scale food production. So the answer is large-scale production, and at the same time, your research must be commercialized, and at the same time solve this problem of hunger. So, and then that way, we'll have a very, very healthy nation in the process.
Okay, you are coming from the private sector. You are going to talk to us about the rules and strategy that should be used to avoid this food loss. But we are going to go on this quick break. When we come back, yes, we are here and we are still talking about building a sustainable food value chain. Now, let's go on this quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with the topic. Welcome back from the break, and if you've just joined in, we are here and we are still discussing building a sustainable food value chain. And before we went on that break, I say we are going to talk about the role or strategies that we can adopt to avoid this food loss. So what are the rules or strategies that should be adopted?
To avoid food loss, the first thing that has to be done is every region of Nigeria that's unique, that produces certain unique products, like Benue that produces mango and some other fruits. We should ensure that Benue has several processing factories.
Even the Anambra's
Onitsha, exactly. Yeah. So, Ogbaro, yes. A place I know very well. So they need to ensure that, let's say in Ogbaro, for example, we know these people are producing a lot of yam. As they are producing the yam, there's a factory being established there to uptake all their yams. And we can process these yams into poundo, yam flour, and so whatever, ways that we can store these products. You move to the north, you go to Kano, where they're cultivating rice. You establish several mills that ensures that whatever they are producing in season, we process it into world-class rice, bagged rice. You go down south and all across the nation, we establish processing facilities in every region that is unique for certain products. So that way there will be zero losses, zero entirely. And one thing we should always quickly talk about is improvement in their seeds, seed improvement.
Yes, seeding, very important.
Farmers are still planting 1922 seedling, old stuff. You go to the market.
And on the same soil.
On the same soil.
On the same soil.
When you go to the market, you see Indian rice, Nigerian rice. And some of the Nigerian rice are so horrible. Again, I'm not trying to say, we have some fantastic rice, by the way. You go to Taraba rice, awesome, fantastic. But what I'm saying is, why don't we ensure that, and this is the job of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture here, ensure that our farmers have access to new seedlings so that they get a higher yield, they can produce rice and food that is competitive in terms of the taste, and we can even export it. So we should also look at this angle whereby government will create certain funds, even private individuals. You go to all our highways, let's say in Maitama all the way towards Kubwa, you see a single car lot has like 200-300 cars. And when you sum up the value of those cars, they are billions and billions. Why would I invest billions in cars when I can invest billions in agriculture and I'll make my returns easy? And at the same time, I'll feel good that I've fed thousands of people.
You go feed yourself.
And feed yourself. So that's one thing I want us to think about. Guys, let us rethink agriculture. Food is a good business.
Food is a good business. I like that.
Okay, now we are talking about food. What advice would you give? Let's start with the government. We talked about Ministry of
Agriculture.
Let's start with the government. What advice would you give to them?
The policies on ground that is even helping the farmers.
Before you now advise farmers.
Yeah, on the government side, yes, they've done a lot. I cannot take that away from them. They're doing a fantastic job. But the truth is, they can do much more. We should they should support several business people, or shall I say entrepreneurs, to establish different parts of the value chain. Like create 1,000 farmers cultivating rice, beans, yam, and whatnot. Also, support people creating the processing part of the food, packaging, export. So their support should not always be, we want to set up an SCPs, a special processing zone, and then you pump billions into one zone or one in the Ogun or in Kano. No, you should have several of those. That's the mistake we often make. Okay, we want to solve the food problem and then we invest billions into one big project that often fails. So we need to cut it down. It should be modular. Instead of investing 100, invest one in 100 places.
And then supervise.
And supervise.
Yes.
So that it will, have a multiplier effect. You see, that's for the government. And the private sector, guys, like I said, food is a good business. I'm not saying don't do car business. I'm not saying don't do whatever business you're doing, but trust me, whether you like it or not, people may not buy cars, people may not buy clothes, but they'll eat
Every day.
every day,
Yes.
as long as the world exists.
Yes.
So my point is, we should look at agriculture not from a whole archaic point of view that you have to use hoe and cutlasses.
Yeah.
They are smart agriculture. A businessman can wake up today and say, I have 100 million in my account, I'm doing nothing with it. Let me establish a huge farm in Kogi, in Anambra, in Oyo State, in Kano. Invest in this field and don't just do it blindly. Involve technology that will make sure your production is efficient, and whatever you are harvesting, please think of processing it. You will feed us and you'll be exporting to create foreign income for our
There's
nation.
something I want to add. Like when you have gardens
Yes.
at home, you can plant. Like I have a small garden in my place, and I have about 40 tubers of yam.
You can plant.
And I have plantain.
Yes.
I have banana.
And also, quickly before we go, what should be done to make this agricultural, sector attractive, especially for youth?
Well, what makes the youth run away from agriculture is number one, they think if you're a farmer, you have to suffer. You have to stay in the sun. Your back has to be bent.
That's the same again.
And you're
Exactly. Agriculture in Europe, a huge percentage of farmers are young people in their 20s. And what they've done is they have that support, like we discussed, from the banks, from the government. The government will finance a 25-year-old boy or girl to say, you know what, go start a farm in, let's say, in Saskatchewan, in Canada, for example. He or she will get all she needs, and then she has the equipment to actually do. So she doesn't have to do manual labor. So and in the end,
in that way, it's very interesting.
And interesting.
Yes, to make sure that exactly. And you see tractors that drive themselves.
Wow.
You just put the GPS code in, and tractor you just sit in the back, or you cross your leg, and then the tractor does the
just on the farm.
Exactly. So we can do this. I want to let them know there's money in agriculture. Once they smell the money, everybody will leave. And we're going to farming. So these are the things they can do to
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are so blessed with this information this morning.
So please go and get it.
Obviously. I will have to think about that. See, and apply that as soon as possible, right? Thank you. We do appreciate your time with us this morning.
Okay, we've been talking about food. Let me put it that way. And you've heard it. It's lucrative. He says something that is very amazing. Why would you want to invest so much in car business? He's not saying don't do car business, don't do any other business. But he is saying that there's so much money. And investing, you make money, you feed yourself, and you feed the nation. So why don't you go into agriculture? Thank you so much.